started with a wrong turn. I was driving through the outskirts of Sagada chasing a photography assignment. Fog, pine trees, and the promise of isolation. The forecast said light rain, but by the time I reached the ridge, the sky had turned black, the rain relentless and my phone signal gone. At first I thought I'd just wait it out in the car, but the storm got violent fast. Sheets of rain hammered the windshield. Lightning flashed, followed instantly by deafening thunder that shook the trees. My gas tank was nearly empty, and the road I'd taken was half flooded. Then, through the blur of rain, I saw it. A cabin. Half hidden by the trees, with one window dimly glowing. It looked old but solid. My instincts told me to stay in the car, but my curiosity, it won again. I grabbed my camera bag and dashed through the storm. The door creaked open easily, too easily. Inside, the air was damp, cold, and smelled faintly of mold and burnt wood. A small kerosene lamp flickered on a wooden table. The room was empty, no footsteps, no voices, no sign of life. But the lamp, it was still burning. Someone had been here. I called out, "Hello? Anyone home?" No answer, just the rhythmic patter of rain on the roof and the groaning of old wood shifting in the wind. I shut the door and set my things down. The walls were lined with old photographs, their edges curled and brown. They showed a family, a man, a woman, and a little boy. In one photo, they stood right in front of the same cabin. But in every picture, the woman's face had been scratched out. Lightning flashed, illuminating the entire room for a split second. That's when I saw something carved into the far wall. Deep scratches forming words. Greater than don't stay after midnight. I laughed nervously, thinking maybe it was some prank. The storm outside made leaving impossible, so I decided to rest until morning. I found an old chair by the fireplace, threw my wet jacket over it, and tried to close my eyes. But the cabin wasn't silent. From the second floor, faint footsteps, slow, uneven, like someone pacing. I froze. My first thought was, maybe another traveler got stuck here. So I called out again, "Hey!" I didn't mean to intrude. The footsteps stopped. Then the sound of something rolling across the floor above me. A ball, maybe? It bumped once, twice, then came to a stop at the top of the stairs. I waited, heart pounding, staring at the staircase. Lightning flashed again, and for an instant, I saw a small shadow at the top. A child's silhouette. I blinked. Gone. I wanted to believe my eyes were playing tricks. Exhaustion, darkness, fear. They twist your mind. But then I noticed something on the floor by the staircase, a wet footprint, small, barefoot, pointing toward me. The lamp flickered. The flame stretched higher, as if reacting to movement. And then I heard it. A soft voice, whispering. He took her face away. I stood up so fast the chair toppled. My breath came in short gasps. "Who's there?" I shouted, scanning the dark corners. No answer, only the creak of the upstairs door slowly opening. I grabbed my flashlight and aimed it up the stairs. The beam landed on an old wooden door, slightly ajar. Something glinted behind it, metallic, reflecting the light. Every step I took upward made the stairs moan. The air grew colder. The smell of rot grew stronger. When I reached the door, I hesitated, hand trembling. I pushed it open. Inside was a bedroom, untouched for years. The floor was covered in old toys, all facing the same direction, toward a dresser with a cracked mirror. On the bed lay a woman's dress, neatly folded, soaked in dried, dark stains. The reflection in the mirror showed the room behind me, empty. But then, a figure appeared in the reflection. standing right behind me, a tall man, face obscured by shadows, holding something sharp. I turned instantly, but there was nothing there, just the wind howling through the broken window. I backed out of the room, flashlight shaking, heart racing. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, the photographs on the wall began to fall, one by one, slamming onto the floor as if thrown. The lamp blew out, plunging me into darkness. Then came the whispers again, louder this time, all around me. He took her face. He took her face away. Don't stay after midnight. Thunder roared overhead, shaking the entire cabin. In the flash of lightning, I saw something. The woman from the photographs, standing outside the window. Her face was missing, just smooth skin where her features should have been. Her hands pressed against the glass, leaving bloody smears as she stared in, head tilted. That was when I ran. I threw the door open and bolted into the storm. The rain blinded me, mud sucking at my shoes, branches clawing my arms. I didn't stop until I reached the car. When I looked back, the cabin was gone. Nothing but trees and darkness. And the next morning, when the storm finally cleared, I asked the locals in the nearby village about that cabin. An old man's expression turned grim when I described it. That place burned down more than 20 years ago, he said. A man went mad, killed his wife, his son, then himself. They never found her face. The house was destroyed. I told him I'd seen it standing, lights on. He shook his head. Greater than if you saw lights there during the storm. It wasn't the living welcoming you. It was around 11:47 p.m. when I found myself driving along the old Marasigan Highway, a narrow, 2-lane road deep in the countryside. It was supposed to be the shortest route back home. But as the wipers squeaked against the fogged glass and the rain grew heavier, I realized just how lonely that road truly was. The headlights cut through the thick curtain of rain, but beyond that, nothing. No other cars, no houses, not even the faint glow of a distant post light. Just the dark forest, pressing in from both sides, and the rhythmic drumming of raindrops on the roof. I remember feeling uneasy. That subtle kind of fear that creeps in when you realize you're completely alone. My phone had no signal, the radio was full of static, and the GPS kept recalculating, spinning endlessly. Then I saw it. A figure standing by the side of the road. At first I thought it was just a traveler caught in the storm, a man wearing a raincoat, head bowed, holding what looked like a small suitcase. I slowed down, hesitated, then pulled over a few meters ahead. The rain blurred everything so I could barely make out his face. He didn't move, didn't wave, didn't approach, just stood there, completely still. I rolled down my window slightly and shouted, "Hey, you need a ride?" No answer. The figure stayed motionless for several seconds and then, very slowly, lifted his head. The light from my car barely reached him, but I could see the reflection of his eyes, glinting strangely, like a cat's eyes when caught in headlights. Then, without a sound, he turned his back and started walking into the forest. That should have been my cue to leave. But something inside me, a mix of worry and curiosity, made me grab my flashlight and step out. The rain was freezing cold as I followed the trail where he'd gone. Each step splashed into muddy puddles. The air smelled of wet earth and something else, something metallic. Then I saw it. About 10 feet into the woods was an abandoned car, flipped on its side, half hidden by branches. Its windows were shattered, steam hissed faintly from the engine, and there, slumped against a tree beside it, was the man I'd just seen. What was left of him. His head was twisted at an unnatural angle, his face pale, and drenched in rain. The raincoat was torn, and the suitcase beside him was splattered with dark, dried blood. My flashlight trembled in my hand as I stepped closer. Inside the suitcase were old photographs, all ruined by water. But one was still visible. A woman and a child, smiling in front of a small house. On the back, written in smeared ink, "We'll wait for you to come home." I stumbled backward, heart pounding. That's when I heard it, footsteps sloshing in the mud, approaching from behind me. I turned around, expecting to see another traveler, maybe someone who'd also stopped. But there was no one. Only the rain falling harder and harder, drowning out every sound. Then, a whisper, right next to my ear. "You shouldn't have stopped." The beam of my flashlight flickered out. I ran. I don't even remember how I made it back to my car. I slammed the door shut, started the engine, and sped down that road without looking back. But as I drove, I noticed something horrifying in the rear-view mirror. Muddy handprints on the back seat window, slowly sliding down, as if someone had just been there. When I finally reached the main highway, I pulled over at a gas station, shaking. The attendant looked at me strangely. I asked him if he knew anything about a crash on Marasigan Highway. He hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah. That happened years ago. A man died there in a storm. They say he was trying to get home to his wife and kid, but never made it. Locals avoid that stretch of road, especially on rainy nights." He paused, his voice low. "You didn't stop for him, did you?" I didn't answer. I just looked at the window of my car, where even after wiping it clean, the faint outline of those muddy handprints was still there, as if pressed from the inside.